Right. What's up, guys?
Welcome back.
Welcome back from another week hiatus.
That's right. This is a holiday episode. We should have gotten some holiday shit. I just realized, but
Damn it. We should have got like
I have
Santa
no
Claus
decorations.
hats.
Yeah.
Or beards. That would have
Do
been
I
good.
have- Oh, I think I threw it out. I used to have a Christmas Nicolas Cage. I can't.
Oh, that's
Did I throw
that
it
would have
out?
been perfect.
Fuck. I
Wait,
definitely had a
Can you
Nicolas Cage
define to
pillow.
me what a Christmas Nicolas Cage is?
It was
versus
a
a regular.
It was just like Nicolas Cage in a Christmas hat. It was like a green pillow. Fuck.
From a movie?
No, it was just Nicolas Cage. It was just his face. Somebody got it for me for a secret. Well, it was a Secret Santa gift, but they knew I was in the Secret Santa. So when it popped up, everyone was like, "All right, Jordan, you're gonna steal it. Just take it." I'm like, "Yes."
Nice.
Speaking of, by the way, did you see the Nicolas Cage movie trailer that came out?
Oh wait, which one? Not the
It's like the dangers of like immense talent or something.
Oh, it's like a biopic or something on himself, right?
It's kind of like a biopic, but I don't think it's a biopic in the fact that like they're following his life. It's like a fake story.
Yeah,
about
it's like
Nicolas
a
Cage.
mockumentary like version, like satirical version of his own career.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, yeah. Was there a trailer that dropped for that?
Yes. You have to watch it after. You have to watch The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I just. Love
mean,
it.
if there's
so funny.
a single line that describes his life, it's that.
It's honestly incredible.
The unbearable weight.
Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Also, fun fact: I think Lionsgate's. I follow all like the studios on Instagram just because I am always curious about how they market or what they're marketing.
Yeah.
And they've been marketing this movie, and the way they've been marketing it is, it's like in the most Nicolas Cage meme way ever, where it's like, it's straight like I think it's like basically their movies, but then Nicolas Cage is just inserted in the background of all of them. So I forget what the movies were, but it would just be like a famous movie, and then it's just like Nicolas Cage in it. Like I think it was like Gossip Girls, and there was like Nicolas Cage right next to them or something. And then there was one where it was my brother sent me this. It's like a TikTok video. They're like, "This is how you like drill in a hole," and then just cuts to just a picture of Nicolas Cage, and it just like stays at that for like 30 seconds.
I mean, that's great that they're using such modern ways to market.
Oh yeah, I mean he's a meme. Like he's the honestly, it's a great way to market him. But anyway, that's just we can start
Good
there,
way to start with what we're anticipating, but
yeah.
let's talk about what actually happened. So today's 12/16, December 16. We just had not that much come out, right? Like
No, I feel like the big movies they're waiting until either this weekend
Christmas.
or Christmas.
Yeah,
next weekend.
I mean the big story. So West Side Story.
Yes,
It's a Spielberg movie that didn't make money.
that's the thing. They
Isn't that
really had all the elements to make this. This should have. I think in like 20, 30 years ago, this would have been great. Like this would have done well, and not to say it won't do well. Like who knows what's going to happen when it goes to EST, right? Like people might buy, pay $20 for it at home potentially. So it's not like a complete failure yet. It could show great, potential on your TV. But I just this is I think the epitome of like where the movie industry, the theatrical business is going.
Yeah.
Where just like the type of movies that people go out to the theaters for has completely changed.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's ever going to go back.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what
This is
would
a movie
happen.
that is you already know it's going to do well at home.
Yeah.
But it's not the kind of thing that people show up for.
It needs to be an event.
Yeah.
It just needs to be an event type
Yeah.
thing, or you're just not going to want to
But
go.
it's crazy though. It has such great ratings.
It has
and-
everything. It has Steven Spielberg. It's got a pretty good cast.
Yeah, it's a musical.
It's a musical. I mean, well, I don't know. I feel like
love
musicals are
musicals, too.
kind of niche. Like some people, I love musicals personally, but
Yeah.
I think musicals can be kind of niche for people these days. But yeah, Steven Spielberg, great reviews. Like, I mean, it really had everything going for it with the exception of its genre.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like to what I was telling you before, if you're thinking about the movies that you can wait for, I think they're the type of movies that you can wait for, but also the type of movies that you like think it would actually enhance a lot. The value of the movie would be enhanced a lot if you were in a theater.
Yeah.
And with this movie, the difference in the experience from being in a theater versus being at home is probably not going to be that significant, which means I'm not going to pay for it.
Yeah, it's not enough.
versus you care like Marvel, for instance, anything Marvel, or if you like do Dune or something like that.
Yeah.
That like you see
It's
the
an
trailer
experience.
and you're like,
Yeah.
this is a big experience. Like
Yeah.
I need to go to the theater to experience this. And I
Right.
think audiences relate to that. That's why Dune
Yeah,
did well in the
why-
box office.
I mean, why didn't they just sell it straight to a streamer? Right? Like they probably could have even at least broke even on it.
well, I'll tell you, I don't actually see a disadvantage really in putting it exclusively in theatrical first and then putting it in later. Because like they get 10 million in box office, that's fine, and then they put it on and then they make the deal on the streamer. I mean, I guess the only
streamer
thing,
will pay less though. That's
yeah,
the problem. Yeah.
So that's the only thing is the streamer will probably pay less. So I guess there's that. I'm curious. I guess it's a crapshoot because you have to be like, well, the streamer's going to project how much the box office would have been, and they're going to add that to the value,
Well,
right?
Here's probably what happened. They probably were contemplating it, and then Spielberg was like, nah.
Well, that's probably right too.
Yeah, he's probably just like, nah, this is supposed to go in the theater, and then they're like, are you sure? Because it's gonna make like $10 million.
He's been hesitant.
Yeah,
he's been one of the directors. I mean,
more
I think
vocal ones.
any big director. I mean, if you look at
OG directors.
any of the OG big directors like Christopher Nolan, Denis Villeneuve or whatever. Villeneuve, I always mess up his name. The Dune director. But all those people. Jane Champion just came out with The Power of a Dog or something with Benedict Cumberbatch. She came out with a really interesting movie. I still haven't seen it, but I've heard it's really good. And she also came out and was like,
yeah,
it's just not the same. And Patty Jenkins also came out and was like, you need the theatrical experience. I think a lot of directors are coming out and saying it's different, but I also think they're accepting their fate at this point.
Yeah,
I think they're slowly starting to get.
It made 10 million against a 100 million budget. That's horrible.
Yeah, it's really not.
That's
good.
a bomb.
It's really I mean, I don't know how they make up that money. And by the way, this is $10 million in the box office. 50% of that probably goes to the the chain. So they got $5 million.
Yeah.
So they still need to make up $95 million. They need to make up 95% of their movie.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the last ditch effort is to just sell it to a streamer, right?
Like, and hope that Netflix overpays. Yeah. I mean, also that's $100 million production.
Production.
So
it's not even including marketing, advertising.
Right. They must have had. I would say they probably had like 20 million.
I mean, to be fair, I didn't really hear anything about this movie. Like I saw the trailer maybe like a couple months ago, and then after that, like nothing.
I kind of
no billboards, no.
The only reason why I knew kind of that this was happening was because they were doing open casting calls when they first did it. I thought it was really cool.
Oh.
Like they were like not trying to get somebody famous.
You trying to be that West Side?
I thought about it.
Oh, okay.
I thought about auditioning. It was like totally open casting. Like everybody in that movie is a complete stranger. Like they actually, a lot of them on the red carpet said, I should have. I would have outshone.
You would have.
It would have been.
It wouldn't be fair. You had to give other people a chance.
But then it might have done well.
Yeah. See, there's the problem. They didn't hire you. That's it.
But yeah. So I don't know. I think this is just a sign that the type of movies that I think we're starting to get past the pandemic, and we're starting to get more. We're starting to finally see what the box office is going to be. Like I think a lot of the excuse has been, oh, it's COVID, it's COVID, it's COVID, and I think with West Side Story, they're still kind of saying that.
Yeah,
but I think
it's funny.
Like
in the articles when they write about like the response, they're saying that like movie going conditions remain impaired, which is it's not really true, right? Because you have other theatrical releases that are doing well. It's just not. It's like it's a misfire in terms of the type of movie.
Yeah, right? I think it's that. I mean, I think it's also something they'll say that has some merit is that West Side Story and musicals generally are enjoyed more by an older audience, and so older people are more resistant to go.
Blame the boomers.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain merit to that. I don't know how much you can actually like credit that to.
Yeah.
But I kind of get that. Like my parents are still my parents are still pretty resistant to going to the movies.
Yeah.
So
I don't think my parents would ever step into the theater ever again.
Really?
Yeah. I just don't think they would.
Not because of COVID reasons, just because like why? Or both?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that they only went to theaters because I wanted to go.
Yeah.
But not because they wanted to go. And I think like more often than not, like 90% of the time that I went to the theater with my family, like my dad's falling asleep like 90% of the time. Like more often than not.
It's a dad thing to do.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
It's funny because, well, it's not funny when he like snores in the middle of the movie.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
dude. I would like slap him in the face.
Dad, get up.
Yeah, I'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's just not going to happen anymore.
No. I don't know. But I think it's going to be tested to transition. Like, it's going to be tested because Spider-Man's coming out, and I expect it to do awesome.
It's going to like blow everyone else out.
I think it's going to blow up, and everyone's going to be like, well, what is it? I thought everybody was scared of COVID. I think it's a combination of like younger kids are going to the theaters, and younger people are just going to be less scared of COVID overall.
I mean, it's also a Marvel movie.
But it's also a Marvel movie. Like, there's so many elements about it that it's one of the most, if not the most popular superhero in America, if not the world.
I think it is the most popular, and I feel like right now, like in the MCU, Tom Holland's probably the most marketable. Yeah, arguably. So people are going to come out to it, and he's like a Gen Z favorite. You know?
I mean, he's one of and he's also. I mean, something that I think about and complain about a lot is just like Hollywood is constantly using old ideas, and what that and relying on data. But what that means is that they're relying on old ideas, and they're also relying on old actors. So like every movie you see has an actor who's like 40 or 50 years old. And they're like, why aren't Gen Z coming out to see it? It's like, well, because, you're not having young stars. Like, Tom Cruise is still in, like, half the movies that go into theaters. Tom Cruise was in movies 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, when he was in his 20s. Bring in the next Tom Cruise. We need the next Tom Cruise. Stop bringing in... Like Brad Pitt for the 50th movie. They were like, or like there was the last duel with like Ben Affleck and
we're getting dangerously close to
new
ageist.
Hollywood stars. we are getting ageist.
Dangerously close to ageist territory. But
we are.
But I agree with you.
I agree with you. Young people don't want to see movies about old people.
Yeah.
It's just a fact. Like
there was that movie called The Misfits in 2021. It had Pierce Brosnan. Like. It was like a heist movie thing.
It's ridiculous.
It's the same problem. Like nobody in that new generation knows who Pierce Brosnan was, even though he was like our James Bond. But
right. But if people saw James Bond, they'd be like, "That's an amazing movie," and they'd relate to him more because he's 30 or whatever in that movie. Like young people want to see themselves represented on screen, and they're not. Like that's why they need more young stars, like Tom Holland. Like.
Agreed.
And they're just not producing them as much. So
and another movie I'm looking forward to is the Kingsman. Kingsman. The King.
Is that what it is?
Apostrophe S man.
The Kingsman.
So the first one was Kingsman in one word.
Yeah.
And then Kingsman Secret Service. And then,
that's tricky. That's tricky.
And this one is the King's man, like the man of the kings.
Good franchise, honestly.
Yeah.
Great franchise, and also the main actor in that one. I don't think he's in this one.
No, it's not Taron Egerton anymore.
But he's also like they kind of were trying to bring him up too as a movie star. Like we need more movies that are trying to bring up young actors to be like the next generation of Hollywood talent.
Yeah,
we need movies like that, new original stuff like that.
Dude, I'm psyched, man. The next
they were good.
End of the year is gonna be great.
They have a lot.
I haven't been taking advantage of my AMC Stubs membership.
You have an AMC Stubs? Oh, dude.
Yeah,
do you get free movies? You get
it's 3 movies a week.
Oh, yeah, you gotta abuse that.
But the thing is, so I always thought of it as like, this is great value for me because I'm gonna watch at least 1 movie a week, right?
Yeah.
Like reality, in like real talk,
really
it's like one movie a month.
Yeah, wait till
one
you're
or
working,
2.
Too. Wait till you're working.
It's even harder.
Time.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, let's move on away from the box office. So some like actual businessy news. Roku and Google finally resolved their carriage battles. I think there was the argument from Roku's side was that Google was asking for YouTube TV was asking for like preferential data treatment. And then on the flip side, YouTube just saying that like Roku's kind of being difficult in terms of like the terms and they're not being flexible with their platform.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of know some other things, but like, thank God YouTube TV is back. Like, like who is actually mad about that?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like to your point, like I had the thing is Roku would have an excellent position normally because, like, I don't think people buy a TV being like, does it have YouTube TV on it? They just buy the best TV.
Right.
And so Roku is a lot of the times the best TV, especially if you're trying to get a smart TV, which pretty much everybody is at this point. So if I couldn't access YouTube TV on Roku, I would have not gotten YouTube TV. The problem is Google did something tricky, and that you could access YouTube TV through the YouTube app.
Yeah.
So for the consumer, the only issue was that you couldn't go to the YouTube TV app. You had to go to the YouTube app and go to YouTube TV from there, which frankly is, as a consumer, a little bit more intuitive than having two YouTube apps.
Right.
Like, actually, that even feels more confusing. So frankly, I don't know what ended up happening, but
I mean, they came to some sort of a term. I don't think it's public. And they extended their multi-year agreement. But yeah, no details around it. I guess people can start downloading YouTube TV on the Rokus again.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to think about, like, what the future of MVPDs is going to be. Like, what's the future of virtual, and for people who don't know what that term is, virtual cable, basically. Like, what is the value of that when it comes to at the end of the day? And then as people rely on cable TV only for, like, specific stuff now. I mean, it used to be you'd buy cable because that was just, like, how you got movies and TV outside the movie theater or Blockbuster. Now it's, like, pretty much just live sports.
Yeah.
And, like, maybe if you want to watch ESPN in the background. It's like, other than that, people don't really... Well, that's not necessarily
the
true.
model is
a ton
not...
of people watch.
The model is
TV
kind of like
now.
being... it's to replace the the regular cable channel model, but it's like a way for people to flirt with streaming before they jump fully. That's the way I see it. Like the purpose of it is to help people transition from cable to streaming. But my personal opinion is that there's two types that are gonna like survive. There's the super premium YouTube TV that's like $60+ and it has like a lot of stuff. And then there's the low cost tier, which is like maybe like 5 or 6 like channels that a lot of people like, and it's only like $20. But it's the ones in the middle that aren't going to survive. So like the Sling Blue, Sling Orange, those are like $30-$40.
Yeah,
with like very
they're
limited
trying to be
channels.
flexible.
Yeah, and those ones aren't going to survive. Like you either get like the similar to cable bundle, or you get something low cost, or just bypass that completely and just get subscription services. But
I think in the midterm you're right, but in the long term,
they won't be there.
Yeah, like they're just going to be gone. Like once football and like basketball and all the live sports,
once they go straight to the streamers,
it's over. Done. Like no one's going to want linear television anymore. Which is interesting because I feel like people did like the fact we could just turn on and be like, let the channels choose what I want to watch at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think
maybe they'll replicate that, but
I think the experience on cable has not fully been replicated yet. Like it's still kind of like glitchy on like vMVPDs when you're watching it like through your laptop, or through like an app on your Roku TV. It's still like not as seamless as like when you like throw on your cable channels and like you can just flip through channels.
Right.
Like that hasn't been fully replicated. But once that is, then there's really no purpose for them.
Yeah. So we'll see.
But we will see more of these carriage battles. Like the other one that you were talking about was the Disney battle, right?
Yeah. So I mean, this is kind of it's similar, but it's also different than the Roku one because it's basically it depends on your definition of the distributor. So like YouTube TV, a lot of times people are like, oh, it's direct to consumer, but it's kind of not because Roku is technically the one actually touching the consumer versus there's like, it's not like the content than YouTube TV than the consumer. It's the content than YouTube TV than Roku, whoever the smart TV is, and then the consumer. So like that battle, the one we just talked about was between
the
like
platform,
the actual distributor, the actual person that touches the consumer. And like kind of the platform, right? The YouTube, and now this is actually the content
going
fighting
to
with
the
YouTube.
Distributor. Yeah.
So like the MVPD market is just kind of all over the place right now because cable's that just business model is dying. But yeah, so now it's Disney and YouTube. So I guess like for context, if people don't know, there's no company that has as much power. So like when YouTube TV wants all these channels, right? And the reason why networks are called networks is because they're a network of channels. They own a bunch of different networks, and they negotiate these networks in a bundle. So like if they're going to like YouTube TV, for instance, they're like, you can't just buy Disney Plus from us or buy Disney Channel from us.
Yeah.
You need to buy all of our channels from us.
Including the shit that nobody wants.
Exactly. Like Disney Kids or like Disney like whatever, like everything. And what ends up happening with that is the big companies can have a lot of negotiation power to a YouTube TV and say, we have all these channels that people really want in conglomeration, even though maybe it's just like ESPN is the only thing they want. But Disney's never going to sell ESPN one off. They're going to make you buy the whole thing. And so what's ended up happening is Disney has had for a long time a huge negotiation power where that every time you pay like 60 or $65 for YouTube, I think like 15 to 18 of that goes to Disney, which is nuts.
And they wanted
most people is like 50 cents. Like most like A&E, for instance, is like 50 cents. And
so they're fighting for a larger share of the revenue.
Yeah. So I think basically this is a standoff between Disney and YouTube TV, where YouTube TV is saying, you need us. Like, this is a lot of revenue for you. You need us, or else, I mean, people go to like Hulu maybe, but a lot of people use YouTube TV. You need us. And Disney says, well, without us, nobody's going to want YouTube TV because you're going to have no value. So there's a fight here.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened. And Disney is basically calling YouTube TV's bluff and saying, we actually think we're even more valuable now than we were whenever
what do you
did
think?
The thing.
Like, who do you think has the leverage in that situation?
Honestly,
you personally.
Personally, for me, the only reason I would ever get cable is, whatever, linear television, whatever, is for the live sports, pure and simple. So if I'm thinking live sports, I think YouTube TV has more leverage because the only thing that Disney has in regard to live sports is ESPN sometimes. I mean, most of the time it's just SportsCenter, which I don't really watch. So, I can get sports commentary everywhere. I don't need it on ESPN.
It's interesting though, because like the channels that are impacted are basically ABC News Lives, ABC News Live, the Disney Channel, FX, ESPN, Freeform, National Geographic. So like basically a lot of the stuff that no one really watches anymore, and ESPN. Right. So it's really because they have one huge valuable asset, which is ESPN, that a lot of people watch on YouTube TV.
Right. Yep. I actually got an email from them. So, and it's funny because YouTube TV calls out Disney Plus on their bluff, basically, and then shits on them to their consumers, which is really interesting. So, like, basically, I got an email from YouTube TV, basically explaining the situation to me. It's like, what the fuck? I'm the consumer. You're explaining your negotiations.
That's what Google did during the other carriage dispute as well. They emailed everyone and was like, hey, this is what's happening. Which,
if you want to know the sheer power of Disney compared to like an NBC Universal, for instance, which I think it was the NBC Universal, I think, right?
No, the one that was also doing that, yeah.
Right. So like with NBC Universal, YouTube was like, hey, if NBC goes off, we'll reduce our price by like $5.
Yeah.
With Disney, they're reducing it by 15.
Yeah.
So that's how much you need to know, like how valuable they think Disney Plus is.
Yeah.
Or no, sorry, not Disney Plus, just Disney generally is. But it's funny, like YouTube is basically explaining the negotiation and saying Disney is trying to fuck with us.
Yeah.
That's literally what they say. They say, Disney important, blah, 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 blah. Our ask of Disney is to treat YouTube TV like any other provider by offering us the same rates. And then they basically said, but Disney won't agree to that. Like, we welcomed a new agreement to reach equitable terms, but we haven't been able to reach a deal. Which basically says Disney is trying to fuck us, and we're not going to do that.
The way that's framed, the way that's written is almost exactly the same as their release from, like, Roku as well.
Yeah. They're basically trying to be consumer. They're basically saying, we're on the side of you guys, but they're trying to screw us. So it's more their fault than it is than ours that you're not going to be able to get access to this programming, and they're being very consumer friendly about it because they're like, we get it, this is an inconvenience. Here's how you cancel, and we're going to reduce.
Yeah,
and it's very good from a consumer standpoint. As a consumer, you're like,
yeah, but when you're Yeah, when you're looking at it though, they're saying that and like, oh, this is for the consumer, but really what they're trying to do is just take over that market, right? Like they're like for example, like in the Roku dispute, they started Android TV, which is supposed to substitute Roku TV and their OS system on new TVs, and they're saying it's for the consumers as well. I just find it very, very. I get really skeptical when a corporation says that we're doing it for the consumers because,
Especially Google.
yeah, especially Google, because when they say that,
Fair.
they would only do that if they've run the models that show that it is profitable for them to do so. Like that's just how their decision making happens. So like I always get kind of like yeah, you're kind of white knighting a little bit.
That's true. Although you can imagine, I mean, to your point, like market share, right? So like they might be okay with not getting the best rates if they're trying to gain more of the market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like a long-term market share.
Yeah,
thing,
it could be.
like
They could be on the consumer side just because they want to be the best for consumers from a price standpoint and willing to be a loss leader on this until they gain like massive market share. And also, if you think about this, and if you think about this, the two big players are what? YouTube and Hulu, right? Does Disney make money with Hulu? I mean, it's just intercompany payments.
Yeah.
When Hulu carries Disney programming, is the whole company is not really making money with that deal. I mean, they're making money with Hulu subscription, but like,
which also kind of begs a question: like, why do they have to release it onto YouTube TV in the first place? Right? They have Hulu TV.
I mean, there's an argument to be made that maybe it's in Disney's best interest. I mean, well, okay, that's interesting. Because now you're getting to maybe Disney does have leverage because they're like, all right, fine, YouTube TV is going to be a way better service.
Yeah, we're just going to put it all on Hulu TV, and now more people are going to subscribe to Hulu TV.
I mean, you have to be confident, though, that people are going to be like, all right, screw that YouTube TV. I'm going to Hulu because they have Disney content. Yeah. Which I don't know. I don't know how you quantify that. I mean, unless you analyze Hulu plus live, maybe Disney has done this and they've analyzed how much people are watching on Hulu plus live TV, how much they're watching Disney's like network, and they're valuing it based off that. They probably are actually. They're probably like a percentage of total view time.
Do you have
on
YouTube
Hulu.
TV?
I have YouTube. Well, no, I just canceled YouTube TV because I don't use it.
So like that's the exact same sentiment that I got from other people as well. Like they tried it, was not great. They canceled it in 2 months.
I just use it for sports, and my teams suck.
Yeah.
So I'm a Giants fan. Like it's just like
you just gave up.
I don't need to pay to be depressed.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But I guess my point is that like there's a case to be made that maybe that's where Hulu is going.
It's possible. It's really possible. Yeah. I honestly think we're just waiting to see what the NFL does. And I think once the NFL moves to streaming, I think it's going to be very good for the NFL because I think more people are going to watch football, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because they'll have access to it. Like I'm sure there are some people that would watch football but don't want to get cable. So they're like, I mean, that's kind of me. Like I'd probably watch more football if it was like on Netflix or it was on Amazon.
Yeah.
Just because I have access to it. But am I willing to pay $60 a month just because I want to watch the NFL?
I mean, imagine also like if you have it on like Prime and then all of a sudden everyone in the world can start watching football.
People get more into it. It's definitely in the NFL's best interest, even though they're making a lot of money now on cable because every cable company is like on their knees. Like we'll pay you whatever you want to keep. Because you're literally holding this whole business together.
Outrageous deals. Outrageous. And they're long-term, too. Like I don't think they expire until like 2026
No, they do like 7-year deals or something. Yeah. But they also do deals depending on the type of game. So like they negotiate like Monday Night Football deals separately than Sunday deals. Like so it's an interesting thing.
But that's confusing for the consumer. Like at some point they have to like consolidate that.
Oh, yeah.
Not that I watch football or anything, but...
I used to,
But yeah, no, I think that covers most of it. I don't think there's. I think we're all just waiting until the end of the year, seeing what happens then.
Yeah. We'll see.
In terms of recommendations, so I finished Arcane.
Yeah, you
in
did.
one weekend.
Yeah, I did.
And
Me too.
And I fucking loved it.
Was it great?
I didn't know that there was so much lore to these characters.
Yeah.
Like I
As a
played,
League.
I
you
played
played
League.
League, right?
Yeah,
And you still didn't know.
yeah. I had my LAN parties back in the day. I was
Hell yeah.
just at that cusp of like, okay, I know what I'm doing, and I'm starting to get good. If I got any better, then it's gonna like consume
My
me.
entire life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was at that level, so I was like,
fair.
maybe I should.
That was me
fucking
with
stop.
WoW. That was with me at WoW.
Yeah. I mean, I made a very conscious decision to be like, all right, no more.
Yep.
But, man, it was so well done. Like the animation style is so unique. The story was good. Like,
It's wild.
I guess my only problem was like some of the voice acting was a little off.
I could see that. Who?
Actually, I didn't like Jinx's voice actor. Like she had like this raspy, like girlish kind of voice, but I felt like the voice actor may have like overacted some
Maybe.
scenes, maybe a little bit like over exaggerated it.
Yeah.
To make it seem like Joker-esque, but for a girl.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what their character is. Though.
That's
She's
what
kinda
they're going
mentally
for.
fucked up. you know?
Yeah. But I don't know. Like it was good. I could almost see
it's
someone trying
entertaining.
really hard, behind a microphone and like.
Yeah, that's
whatever.
fair.
But I liked that they ended on like an interesting cliffhanger. Like,
Yep.
it would be if when the second season comes out, because it's inevitably going to be.
It was renewed like a week after
Instantly.
its finale. They were like, yeah, Netflix was like, fuck yes.
Yeah.
Because it got great. It was like top 10 show the whole run.
It was
And I'm
produced
sure it has
by
good legs.
Riot Games too. Which is
Yeah.
which is
I
a
thought it
game
was
company.
really interesting.
Anyways,
Not produced in Hollywood, pretty much.
like I think what was good about the way that they ended it was they could have ended Jinx's chapter with that show. If they moved on to like a different piece of lore, it would have been completely fine because you kind of know what happens after that. Like,
Yeah.
like the ending, the big ending, like you kind of know what's going to happen. So, if they didn't continue her story, that's okay too. So I wonder if they're going to continue that story or if they're going to add to like a different piece of lore for the subsequent seasons because there's like a ton of characters, right?
Yeah, I think they might build on the core story. Like I think it's
Yeah.
always going to be those two, and then they're going to.
okay.
I think they're all going to kind of intermingle, like kind of how with like Jace and what's his name, like they were kind of a side story, and then they started intermingling with Vi. And,
Yeah.
I think that's how it's probably going to be. I think it's really strong to have these like two protagonist sisters. I think that's really like a really powerful storytelling like mechanism to have them as like kind of the core. And then you have all of these really interesting characters around them kind of influencing them.
I haven't seen that, like where you have like it's like an abandonment story between two sisters. I don't think I've seen that.
Very unique.
Yeah.
Very unique, but also really impactful. Like you don't see it that often.
Right.
With like siblings, really.
Yeah.
Like you don't see a lot of sibling core stories, which is interesting because that's a really powerful relationship
Yeah.
for everybody who has siblings.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
It was also like
Yeah.
for an animated show, it was like dark as fuck. Like,
Yeah.
like there were parts of it that I was like, holy shit.
I am very as a like just somebody who's done enough like research and is just generally passionate about storytelling. Like animation, what really frustrates me is people who don't watch animation because they think it's for kids and they're like it's not going to be adult storytelling.
Yeah.
Is the stupidest thing. Like my dad said that sometimes. Like you're an
That's
just
adult. Why are you
dumb.
watching cartoons?
Yeah, he'll be like, I think he like understands. I think he knows that it's probably good, but he just like won't do it because he mentally can't get over that like leap of like it's an animation that is for adults. Like his mind, or he just doesn't want to like get over that.
I mean,
and I'm like, dude, you're just missing out on really good storytelling.
Yeah.
Because, well, I mean, the main thing is that with animation, you can do everything. So like. Your story never has to be limited by a production
it's not confined
budget.
by anything.
It doesn't need to be combined by finding the right actor because all you need to do is find the right voice actor, but the character itself is going to act and look just the way you want it to.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about production budget. You don't need to worry about creating the right like scenery. Like it can look the way you want it to look.
Yeah.
So animation can sometimes be the most complete, like greatest stories ever imagined because there's no limitations to it.
Yeah.
Like none.
Yeah.
So it bothers me when people are like, "Oh, like it's an animation though. Like I shouldn't." And this happens because animated movies don't do as well in the theaters as live action movies because there are enough adults out there who are stupid enough to believe, even after like Pixar movies.
That's an interesting thought exercise, though. Like if they release that movie, that like series on like a broadcast channel or like made into a 3-part trilogy or something, would people have gone out to the theaters to watch it?
The animated movie, if it was like in a theater, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think they would have had to change the story a little bit so that it was like if they were going to do a trilogy, it would have had to be like.
It would have went down the World of Warcraft route, right? Like maybe people would have like not liked it so much, but it would have made a lot of money like overseas.
Yeah, maybe. Well, World of Warcraft was live action, wasn't it?
It was half live action, half just CGI.
Yeah, it was like CGI stuff.
Yeah, it was like there was actors in it, but that was the human contingent, and then there was the whole like the orc side.
Right.
That was CGI.
That obviously has to be CGI.
Yeah.
So kind of like the Lord of the Rings kind of thing.
But anyways, I completely agree. 100% recommend watching that. It was great.
One of the best shows I've seen this year, honestly, over the last few years. I thought it was just, it's honestly like what I was telling you, like it's totally unexpected too. Mm-hmm. Like you go and you're like, oh, it's like a game-based TV show about League of Legends. Never played League.
Dude, the first 10 minutes, I was like, wow, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you watch and you're like, this is different. Like, immediately. You're like,
you kind of know, like, right off the bat, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and you already have, like, the connection between the sisters. So you're like, this is already, like, good storytelling.
Yeah.
The animation is nuts. Like, I binged the crap out of it in, like, 2 days, like you did. And it was...
I think it's...
I was sad when it ended.
I think it's understated, like, how good this animation is. I don't think I've seen... this style of like animation ever. I think it's gonna go a lot more into mainstream conscious over time. Like I think if they can extend this for like 4 to 5 seasons, I think this could blow up to be very, very popular. Yeah, I think what it also made me do, which I think hasn't done for me in a while, is like it made me want to look up all the characters, like look at their lore, like
exactly,
like
it's
almost
genius.
Like play the game. Like it's great. I mean,
it's genius for Riot Games. Yeah, it's genius.
It's genius for Riot Games and Netflix. Like they just kind of did a fucking great job with this.
Yeah, I don't even know how much it's Netflix. I'm gonna be honest. I honestly, there's a lot of me that thinks that, kind of to the point that we were talking about last week, where like if you're Riot Games and you create this great show and you say, I want the most people to see this as possible, you go to Netflix. Like I don't know if this is like Netflix picking this show and be like, I just know in my gut feeling that this is
no.
good.
I'm saying it more like strategically, because they're trying to go into gaming and they're trying to go into that space. This is like the perfect like kind of like vehicle for them to like do a first foray into that. Like it's just a very smart strategic move at this point in time with a good partner. Like
That's
Riot.
true. Although they're not going to be able to like really monopolize this from a gaming perspective because it's all owned by Riot. So like Riot's not going to license their IP for Netflix to make a game about it.
I think what it does is that it
maybe, but I don't know why they do that.
It allows them to change the perception that it's not just a streaming company.
That's what I was going to say.
They're like focused on like, gaming, Gen Z, that kind of thing.
I think you're right in terms of like their perception, like how people view Netflix. Yeah. And they're like, you know nothing about gaming, and they come out with the show like, oh, you're partnering with Riot Games. That's interesting.
It's a big shift in perception because like even the other gaming companies. So I know this because my wife works at one. Oh yeah. And there was she works at the other gaming company that is big and makes nice games that you play.
Okay.
But like essentially like they had a whole like town hall talking about how much Riot Games killed it with this, and they're like, this is the kind of innovative shit that we should be doing.
100%. Every video game company needs to be doing this shit.
Yeah, like this is how you franchise your IP. Like this is just how you do it.
Yep. Nintendo doing like theme parks, and Nintendo's coming out with the Mario movie that's going to come out. That's good.
Oh fuck! Please let that be good. I really like the previous live action one.
I really hope that cast is nuts though.
Yeah.
Was it like Jack? It's like Jack Black as Bowser, Donkey Kong as Seth Rogen, Charlie Day as Luigi, Chris Pratt as Mario, Anna Taylor-Joy as Peach.
How could that not be amazing.
I don't know, honestly. Like, when I saw that, I really had like, you know, that like meme of like the woman with like the math behind her head.
Yeah,
Like I was just sitting there, be like, do I like this? Like, I don't know. Like, I love it and I hate it at the same time. Like, I have no idea what to think about this.
Yeah.
The best one is obviously Jack Black as Bowser. That's obviously the best one.
I mean, that was just like a casting choice that someone's like, you know who should be Bowser? Fucking Jack Black.
Fucking Jack Black, dude. Like,
he'd be great.
That could be so it could be amazing. And then I know Nintendo's really involved, and they're partnering with Illumination, who made the Minions movies.
Yeah.
Which is a great franchise.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I was Nintendo and I said I want to make a Mario movie, the way they're approaching it is almost exactly how I'd advise them to do it.
Yeah.
Other than maybe having like the OG Mario voice do it, not Chris Pratt, but
I mean, he's gonna be modeling the voice off of.
I'm sure he's working on his like Mario accent, I guess. But anyway, like it's gonna be that whole trend of like video games like partnering with movies and vice versa. It's gonna be.
I think
way
they
more
tried
of a
it
thing.
before in the like the 90s and like maybe like the late 80s, but it just wasn't working back then. It wasn't the right time. But now it's like Sonic.
Yeah, did you see the trailer?
Yeah, dude.
Dude, when Knuckles came over, I was like, "Yo, this looks great."
At the end of the first one, when they're like
when Tails shows
came
up,
I was like, "Yes."
Yeah, I knew when that happened when I saw the post credit scene, I was like, if they're a true fan of the franchise,
they would know.
One of them is showing up. Like one of the other like Tails or Knuckles or one of them is showing up right now. And the instant Tails showed up, I'm like, they know what they're fucking doing.
Yeah,
they know what they're doing. Like the guy is clearly a fan of the franchise.
Yeah,
because he knows that's what would get the fans.
I mean, he's the one that was like, all right, if people don't like the design, we're gonna stop everything and redo it all. Like he knows exactly what the fans want.
You know what's funny about that is while I love the move, if he's a real Sonic fan, how did he let it get to that point? You know, like how could you be a good Sonic fan and see that design and be like, this is good? Why did he have to wait for the fans to be like, what the fuck are you doing?
I think it's because like I don't know how it specifically works in animation versus something else, but like animation works separately to like the production side. They're kind of like post-prod almost, so that they're like kind of doing things behind the scenes. So like maybe they just didn't see it until it was like ready, and then like once they saw it,
he could have also been like
that shit.
Yeah, he could have also
look good.
I could see the studio also have like been like, no, this will work, and him being like,
yeah, maybe.
I don't know about that, and then it gets released, and then he says, okay, fuck you were wrong.
Yeah, but they made a good choice.
Yeah.
The other recommendation that I have was on the plane. I watched a documentary called The Lost Leonardo. It's basically about like I don't know if you remember this, but like I briefly remembered this back in like 2016, 2017. Like there was this Lost Leonardo painting. Yeah, it was like it's called like the male Mona Lisa. The actual name of it is called the Salvatore Mundi, and there's like this whole thing around like it being discovered, it being sold in auction, it being used as a way to like launder money, and like because it sold for $450 million.
Are you serious?
Yeah, 450. And previously before that, the most expensive was the Mona Lisa at like 80 million or something.
Holy shit!
And like honestly, fucking the whole purpose of like expensive art is to launder money. Like there's got to be like.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be the only explanation.
You can't track that shit.
Yeah, because like the way they purchase it and they put it into this place in Switzerland, and they don't have to pay taxes on it because it's in transit in a transaction, and that's just like what this place is. Yeah, it goes.
Rich people get out of paying taxes so much.
Yeah, you just buy fine art. You know,
you buy art.
But it was a good documentary. It's like two hours long. But it also showed me that you don't need like a 6-part series on Netflix for it to be a good documentary. Like this is
2 hours.
Yeah, it was just 2 hours, but it went. It was like 3 parts, but it was great.
Yeah.
3
parts of 2 hours each, or like 2 hours, like
2 hours and 3 like chapters. It was great. Like I recommend it. I haven't been so engaged in a documentary since like Don't Fuck with Cats or like
dude,
Tiger
that's
King.
a nuts documentary. I watched that at the beginning of COVID because my brother was like, dude, you gotta watch
this. Yeah,
that's a great one.
Yeah, I haven't been that engaged since one of those.
Yeah. What's it on?
Fuck.
Well, I guess it was on an airplane.
It's on an
Do
airplane.
you know
it's still pay one, but not sure. It's called The Lost Leonardo. We can look it up probably.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, while you're looking up that, the only thing I've watched.
97% Rotten Tomatoes.
Damn.
$4.99 Amazon Prime. So you can watch it
Okay,
like
so you
TVOD
can get it.
anywhere for
Yeah.
$4.99.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
The only thing I've watched is I watched the QAnon documentary on HBO Max.
I've seen that. Wild.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's a crazy.
It kind of struck me in a weird place to know that the guy was like Asian. It just never occurred to me that the guy would have been Asian. like
he was like very Asian too. Like he had all the Japanese shit in his room.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Like,
it's just
he was like
it's just very unsettling for me to think like, oh, it was an Asian guy the whole time. Do you know what I mean?
I'm not Asian. So
It just doesn't
know.
compute in my mind because I can't see why there's no place
Like
that I
why
can.
he would want to fuck with
exactly.
America so much.
Yeah, unless it was just like a.
Was he American?
He's American, but he's
American,
He
okay.
lived somewhere else. And
But he was in Japan for like a lot of the documentary.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if he was like from Japan and then he like moved to America. And then,
He was definitely
I wasn't
American.
Sure.
He was definitely American.
Yeah, he sounded American.
Or schooled in America, and then he like moved out.
Yeah, he sounded completely American.
Yeah. But it's also a wild documentary.
That is a nuts documentary. Very well done.
Very
honestly.
enlightening.
But yeah, I didn't know. I thought it was really interesting from like two aspects of it. Was first like just kind of like, you know, we the media always talks about like free speech and, you know, when like Twitter censors people, when Facebook censors people, you know, people get mad and they're like, oh, they're censoring too much. And then you go to like whatever, like the 8kun or whatever it is, and you're like, this is what real like free speech looks like. And you're like, fuck, okay, so there has to be a middle ground here because too much free speech is like legitimately like you can go on that channel and watch
like
babies be murdered. Yeah, I mean, people like if you really go into like the dark depths of like the shittiest of people, like you get some really crazy bad stuff. So like I feel like it's more highlighted in the news, like everything Twitter bans, but nobody talks about like what pure free speech is.
Yeah.
You have to find like the in between with the internet. Like pure free speech was like a good idea when. You didn't have
every
the internet.
rule in the Constitution, though. There's like, it's an extreme, but it has to be like, there has to be guardrails,
right,
to everything,
right. Like so, like yeah. I mean, the Constitution, right, says like you have free speech until like incites violence. Is that in the Constitution, or is that just like a rule that all the social media platforms have just?
No, I think that is in there.
Normal people.
Yeah, okay. I'm not American, so
I don't
can't
know.
speak.
You're not American?
Maybe we should ask Nick, because since
Nick would know.
He stole it.
I don't even know what he's wearing. He's not wearing an American thing.
That looks like a czar's outfit. Anyways,
the Illuminati.
I think my wife is.
Okay, yeah, it's late.
For fourth time.
Fair enough. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. This is our last episode before the holidays. So
see you in
we'll be in a couple
2022.
weeks. Yeah, a couple weeks. We'll talk about Spider-Man. Seeing you on Sunday.
Yeah.
Fucking amped.
All right, let's sync up after.
Yeah.
Next time.
Peace, guys.
Peace.